Live boxing along the frozen shore. We're at the Boardwalk Hall in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Our main event special this evening, two of the top welterweights in the world, Antonio Margarito and Sebastian Lujan. Margarito arriving tonight knowing there are big names and big fights looming if he keeps winning. Lujan, largely unknown in the U.S., has fought predominantly in his native Argentina, can stake his claim tonight.
Time for our main event now. From Boardwalk Hall in Atlantic City, can the world's #1 ranked welterweight Antonio Margarito get past Sebastian Lujan? Well, this is a fight that'll surely shake up the Ring Magazine rankings, and this is a year in which the welterweight division will have plenty of punch to it. Zab's the champ, Margarito's #1, Lujan #10, and waiting in the wings for the winner of this fight is #5 on that list, Kermit Cintron. In fact, Kermit is literally waiting ringside to see this fight. Kermit Cintron here tonight was supposed to be fighting on this card, but an injured right hand kept him out. Sebastian Lujan ready to go. He says forget Margarito versus Cintron, that he will be the one fighting Kermit. Of course, for Margarito, the big money, the big spotlight fight has been part of the master plan for a long time. For Antonio, that spotlight hasn't always been shining bright. He survived the hard scrabble upbringing in Tijuana, Mexico. Now he's starting to see the rewards of his work. Recently, we went to Tony Margarito's home in Tijuana, Mexico, to learn about a special partnership that is the basis for his success.
We met in junior high. We were in the same classroom in 8th grade. At first, it was just a typical childhood friendship in school. Then when we left junior high, 9th grade, that's when we started going out.
She used to sit 2 desks in front of me, so every time she would pass by, I'd stick my foot out. So she'd pay attention to me and she would look at me.
And I used to tell him, you know, I can't stand you. Get away from me. And he tried to make me pay attention to him. And every time he did that, he would say, you know, someday you're going to be mine. And I'd say, you're crazy.
We went out for 7 years, and I knew she was the ideal woman for me to be my wife. And so I planned it, and I asked her grandfather for her hand in marriage.
When we first got married, we went through a tough period because Antonio did not have any fights. And it was tough for him to work and train at the same time. He's very disciplined and very dedicated to his craft. So yes, I did work in the beginning, not so much to maintain him, but to help with the bills around the house.
She knew and she knows how hard it is and the sacrifices that one has to make to be a fighter. And when we started together, we both struggled together, and when I could, I used to help her out.
No, I didn't think at the time that down the line I would recuperate in some way. I had to do it because we had to have some money to support ourselves and pay the bills. But I never did it thinking one day we would have all that we have right now. I never thought that way. I just thought that it was my duty to help him.
Besides being my wife, she's my best friend. She's there in the good and the bad times. She's there when I'm tired. She's there when I need a little cuddling. She lifts my spirits, and so it's very important to have her here with me. Michelle is an integral part of his team because she's very close to him. She's always been with him, and she takes care of him, not only physically and mentally, she takes care of his nutrition, and so she is part of the team. They wouldn't be able to do this without her.
I take care of him. I make sure he sleeps well, he eats well. It's just my role as his wife. These feelings well up inside of me because I get mad that he doesn't get the respect he deserves in boxing. He's done all this by himself. Nobody's helped him. He's done it all on his own. We've gone through some very hard times. For example, when his brother passed.
I had a fight in Fort Worth, Texas, and they let me know a day before that he had passed away. Michelle didn't have her green card, to go into the States. So once I got home, she was definitely there for me. She hugged me, she cried with me, she was there every step of the way. It's something that I'm never, ever going to forget.
And now back live here in Atlantic City. Easy to see why Team Margarito is so successful. The Oscars a week away, but this weekend, Michelle duly noted as the best supporter. Teddy, let's talk fights. Sebastian Lujan, he's capable of pulling off this upset. What is the fight plan for him in order to do that?
Well, number one, don't get greedy. You love to make stands and throw punches in bunches. That will be great for our fans, but maybe not for you if you stay there throwing too long. Number two, don't spread your legs too far. You have a habit of squaring up and widening your legs so you can stay there set to punch. But this will make you an immobile sitting target for the taller Margarito. And number three, find the target with the right. You are a huge underdog in my eyes, so you have to find something to rely on for any hope, and that would be your best punch, the right hand.
And as for the champ, Antonio Margarito, Teddy Atlas's fight plan.
Number one, make him pay for real estate. You are taller, keep a distance, and when he tries to work in closer, make him pay by catching him. Number two, take advantage of his leaning. He likes to bend forward from the waist. This will be a great opportunity for you to bring uppercuts to straighten him out. And finally, number three, inside the wide. He will throw some looping wide punches. This will allow your straight shots to find a home.
Now for the official introductions, here's Michael Buffer.
Ladies and gentlemen, courtesy of Bally's Atlantic City, Main Events is proud to present the featured bout of the evening, 12 rounds of boxing for the WBO Welterweight Championship of the World. Brought to you in association with Top Rank Incorporated and sanctioned by the New Jersey State Athletic Control Board Boxing Commissioner Larry Hazard Sr. Board members Stephen Katz and Dennis McDonough. WBO President Francisco Paco Barcarcel. The three judges at ringside scoring this bout will be Barbara Perez, Clark Sammartino, and John Stewart. And when the bell rings, your referee in charge of the action, David Fields. And now by way of Bally's Atlantic City for Main Events and ESPN2, ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble! Introducing first, fighting out of the red corner, wearing yellow and official weight 146 pounds, professional record 22 victories, including 14 knockouts, only one defeat, with one bout even. He comes to us from Santa Fe, Argentina. Ladies and gentlemen, here's the challenger, Sebastian Lujan. And his opponent across the ring, fighting out of the blue corner, wearing white, trimmed with silver. His official weight, 147 pounds. His professional record, 30 victories, including 21 KOs with only 4 defeats. From Tijuana, Mexico, presenting the reigning, defending WBO welterweight champion of the world, Antonio "Tony" Margarito.
12 rounds for the WBO welterweight title. Dave Fields is the third man inside tonight.
Okay, gentlemen, we're scheduled to box 12 rounds for the WBO welterweight championship of the world. I've gone over the rules in your dressing room. I expect you to obey my commands at all times, and most of all, protect yourself at all times. Touch gloves, good luck. Touch gloves, Papa.
The referee, Dave Fields, a former fighter.
Ring experience, the edge goes to Margarito, but even more so than the numbers you see there, Teddy, the quality of opposition that Margarito has not just faced, but defeated.
Well, if they were swimmers, I'd be saying that there's a huge step up in class, and Lujan's about to go from the wading pool to the ocean. We'll see how he handles those waves. And they will come.
Very tough and determined pro in Antonio Margarito. Lujan, ready for action, stocky build, 5'6". Very wide across the back of the shoulders. Margarito in the white and silver. Sebastian Lujan wearing the yellow.
Margarito, the taller, bigger man, but does not always fight tall. He's a fighter, and sometimes he gets right down to that, and he gives up his height. He comes in, and he just thinks offense, not distance.
Lujan lowering his head and swinging with combinations and a right to the body. He's starting off fast.
And Margarito has been susceptible early. He's been on the floor 2 times in the first round. He's come up and won both, but he has been hurt. Lujan may have that in mind. This is what you're going to see. You're going to see Lujan coming forward. If he gets Margarito to stay there for a little while, you'll see Lujan throw punches in bushel baskets.
He told us that was the plan. Wants to throw nonstop, stick to his plan, not worry about Margarito.
The problem with Lujan is when he does throw, they can be a little wide, and they can leave openings for somebody who's inclined to throw straight. Again, Margarito, the taller, bigger man, not using the height right now by establishing that jab. You can even see there, Margarito, even though he's the taller man, he's giving up his height, he's coming forward.
Margarito now 5.5 years removed from the murder of his brother. That was a tragedy that occurred within 24 hours of a scheduled fight. That was a fight that Antonio went forward with, actually, in honor of his brother. There's Lujan with a looping left hand that scored.
And it's because of distance that Lujan scored that punch. Margarito got in close and then pulled out from too close. And if you pull out from too close, you can get caught on the way out, especially with a guy like Lujan who throws long punches. Those long punches are going to find you as you're pulling out. You're going to pull into those punches. With Lujan, you got to be inside the eye of the storm, inside those wide punches. There's a haven there. It's safe there. Or all the way on the outside like Margarito is now. Make Lujan miss, make him leave himself available, and then find the opening. But you can't be in the middle, you can't be in no man's land with Lujan, because you're going to taste leather, and long leather, if you are. This is a fight that our fans should enjoy.
I'll tell you, Teddy, it's an interesting first round because right now you have such a better sense of what Lujan brings to the table.
Lujan is looking to walk in, and Margarito sees something. He's looking for the uppercut. I think he has it in his mind that he can catch the shorter Lujan with that uppercut leaning in. And there it is.
Let's go, get that stool out. Get that stool out. The stool, Papa.
Well, at one point in his career, Antonio Margarito, who you see in the white trunks, was a sparring partner for Oscar De La Hoya. Now, he would be viewed as major trouble for Oscar at 147 pounds. Tonight, a ton on the line against the aggressive, free-swinging Sebastian Lujan.
And there, as advertised, is those punches and bushel loads from Lujan. All it took was Margarito to stop moving on his wheels, on his bicycle. And that's when Lujan went into what he does. Throw leather and throw a lot of it.
Connected well with a right hand on that last exchange, did Lujan.
Let him go. Come on. Let's go.
Margarito is going to have a definitive identity tonight. He's going to make up his mind. He's going to move on the outside and look to pot shot Lujan as he comes in, or if he's going to stand his ground and get inside the wide shots. But he can't be mixing it up in between both, because an aggressive guy like Lujan will take advantage of that lack of identity.
Yo, pick it up, all right? Let's go.
He will take advantage of that lack of being sure of what you want to do, because he's sure what he wants to do, and that's come forward and get off with his hands. See, right now you can see Margarito, he wants to stay on the outside. He wants to make sure he's all the way on the outside with these long punches. He wants to do that. Make Lujan reach, help him a little bit. Make mistakes, leave himself open, and then Margarito will look for counter opportunities. I think the best bet for Margarito here, Joe, is to set himself, and there's that uppercut we talked about, set himself with his feet, draw a line, use that jab, and be set to punch, so when Lujan tries to walk in, he can make him pay for every inch he tries to make up.
In the first half of this second round, he was coming in free of charge, Teddy.
That's because Margarito, even though a lot of people say, well, gee, he's got the right idea, he's moving, he's mobile, but he was moving too much. And he was moving in a way which was allowing Lujan not to respect him, to know that he wasn't set to punch, that he could be the boss, he could walk right in. Right now, Margarito's got the right idea. Set himself, keep a distance, use the jab, but be ready to fill the holes. Don't just move your feet where your opponent doesn't have to respect you, where you're not ready to punch. Be ready to make your opponent pay a price when he tries to earn his way in. And that's the key in this fight. Margarito must make Lujan earn his way in, but Margarito must not be in that place, no man's land, where he's right at the end of those looping punches.
Margarito gets the attention of the crowd once again. More importantly, the attention of Antonio Margarito with that left hand to close out this second round.
For the most part, the last round was Margarito's, but there was one spot right here where a left hook, not real clean because Margarito saw it coming from Lujan and he turned with it a little bit. But that's the danger land right there. Margarito, when he's throwing, he must make sure that he's aware of his distance, aware of his range, aware of those long punches that are thrown very freely by Lujan.
Sebastian Lujan, the underdog in this fight, in the yellow trunks. You see the punches in round number 2. Through 85, landed 17-2. Very strong, effective left hands, highlighting that second round. Joe Tessitore and Teddy Atlas, now joined by the welterweight champion of the world, Zab Super Judah. First off, Zab, congratulations. Sensational win over Corey Spinks. And I know when you sit back and you watch other contending welterweights, it's so much easier to pick out the flaws rather than the strengths. What flaws do you see with Antonio Margarito?
Well, right now, I see that Margarito is making a mistake by standing straight up in the air. I think that if I was Margarito, I would use my jab, I would stay low and look for the uppercuts and hooks and slide around after that. He shouldn't be standing right now toe-to-toe with these guys. This is a little strong bull right now. He should be throwing uppercuts and hooks and sliding around, using the good jab, and stay low.
Now they are trading here against the ropes. There's another looping right hand from Sebastian Lujan.
Zeb, I'm sure it's Teddy here. I'm sure that you'd like to see the distance controlled by the taller Margarito.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Margarito has a good jab and a nice long jab. He should learn how to use his good jab and work this guy around. This guy should never get into him.
Zab Judah, we look forward to hearing your comments all evening long. Doing a great job with Brian Kenny tonight. We'll hear from you later on.
Okay.
See, Zab makes a good point. The welterweight champ of the world makes a good point from Brooklyn, I might add. Makes a good point about Margarito standing straight up. But to me, it's where he stands straight up. If he's out there, hey, you know what? It's fine. But not if he's in that punching distance. Then Zab is exactly right. He needs to either become small or at least get his head on the side where he's not available. He is not a stature. He is not a target for the kind of punches that Lujan so freely throws.
Sebastian Lujan, 25 years old, only a pro for 3 years, from Rosario, Argentina. This his first ever fight in the United States.
Lujan said, come on. He said with his gloves, come on. But that's strategy, too. Not just machoism, but that's strategy. He doesn't want to have to find his way into the taller man. He wants the taller man to make it easier for him to come close where he can find them.
End of 3.
No.
Sebastian Lujan in the yellow trunks taking on the WBO champion of the world, Antonio Margarito. Ring Magazine ranks Margarito number 1 among the welterweights behind champion Zab Judah. Sebastian Lujan number 10. Most felt Lujan was a big underdog, but he had a puncher's chance, a very aggressive fighter from Argentina. But really, Teddy, he's the great unknown entering this fight. What would we see out of Sebastian Lujan? Well, through 3 rounds, we found out a lot.
And we found out what we knew, but as you talked in the top, whether or not he was going to travel well and be able to do the things that he's done in the past at home in Argentina and one time in Finland, being that this is his first fight on U.S. soil. And we found out because of the temperament he has, yes, he travels well, and he did what we expect him to do. Come, look for a target, and try to find that target with many, many punches.
You saw the punch stats actually favoring Margarito, but the attention-grabbing punches have come from the right hand and left hand of Sebastian Lujan. A good solid left in the second. Teddy, you like the boxing of Margarito in the second and third round after the strong start in the first round from Lujan. 2-1 on your scorecard.
What I would like to see with Margarito, and I'm sure Zeb would feel the same way, is start making Lujan pay for the misses. It's one thing to make a miss, and there's a way to make him pay. The punch we talked about in our fight tips, that uppercut can be very, very effective for the taller Margarito. Why? Well, you see why. Lujan's shorter, likes to come forward, has to come forward, leans in a little bit, and when he leans forward from the waist, he cannot see the uppercut coming. And it could be a very effective punch for Margarito, and guess what? He realizes it now.
Now you can see the long-range targeting and effectiveness from Antonio Margarito. All of a sudden, he has gotten into his groove, and he's picking his shots and hitting his shots.
So this is what I like to see. Margarito use that jab, not pour with it like he is right now, but I'd like to see him snap it. But what you like to see him do is set the distance, draw a line in the canvas, use that jab, keep the range that's good for him, bad for Lujan. Keep Lujan outside, and if he stays out there, do that. Pick spots off that jab with your right hand. And if Lujan decides to do that, come forward, well, counter him before he gets into his punching range. That's how a taller man should behave with a shorter man.
Very good fourth round for Ring Magazine's #1 welterweight, Antonio Margarito. Teddy, let's take a look at that action in the fourth round.
Well, right here, you're going to see just what we were talking about. Margarito drawing that line in the canvas, using the jab to set up the right hand, and then the uppercut as Lujan starts leaning forward.
Well, earlier tonight, Jeremy Schaff said tonight is actually a tale of 3 welterweights, the third being the man in between us. Kermit Cintrone, very good to have you with us. Kermit, of course, Ring Magazine's #5 welterweight, and in most people's eyes, as a power puncher, undefeated fighter, maybe the most exciting guy at 147 pounds. You have a much-anticipated fight with Margarito set for April. What do you make of this fight you're seeing so far tonight?
It's a great fight, you know. Antonio's just got to have to, you know, settle down a little bit more and, you know, use his jab, pick his shots. That's what he's doing actually the fourth round. And, I mean, Lujan is just when, you know, he just comes forward. He just comes forward and, you know, try that lucky punch.
Kermit, you're a puncher, and to be effective as a puncher, you need those tools, those hands. You had a problem with your hand. How is it?
My hand's, you know, coming on pretty good. You know, it's just in the stage of healing, going through therapy. Therapy, you know, it's going great. You know, I've been improving a lot. So by April 23rd, I'll be ready.
Because of that hand problem, you've been inactive probably the longest spot in your career. How's that inactivity going to bother you, or will it bother you going into the biggest fight of your life?
I might not be fighting, but you know, I'm running. You know, I'm trying to stay as much safe as I can. So when I can't, you know, when I do start my training camp, I'm ready. You know, I'm not as
good exchange here in the middle of the ring as Lujan continues to press forward.
Well, Lujan's doing what you want to do.
Exactly.
In your fight, he's getting into punching range, and he's finding Margarito standing a little tall.
I mean, you know, Lujan, he just comes forward and try, you know, he just comes inside, and that's where he wants to be. You know, inside and work the body, and then, you know, come on top to the head.
You know, it's great to be tall. And our terrific champion, Zeb Judah, made a good point of it. It's great to be tall, and Margarito's tall, but it becomes a disadvantage when you allow the shorter man to get into his punching range, and then you're just standing straight. That being tall is a disadvantage because there's a lot to hit.
Yeah, I mean, you know, he is tall. You know, I'm as tall as him, and you know, he just has to use his jab. That's the main key. Use his jab and come back with, you know, with the right hand.
Joe Tessitore and Teddy Atlas joined ringside by Kermit Cintron. Good action here in round number 5 between Sebastian Lujan in the yellow trunks and the WBO welterweight champion, Ring Magazine's #1 ranked welterweight, Antonio Margarito.
You know, Zeb Judah was talking about technical things, which is very interesting for our fans, about Margarito sometimes standing up too straight when Lujan gets in close. Here's another technical problem, I believe, for Margarito, and you're looking there, I'm sure, Kermit. Margarito gets too square sometimes.
Exactly, yes. And you know, my job is right now just, you know, get a good look at him. You know, watch his mistakes. That's the main key. Watch his mistakes, and you know, when I go in the ring with him, when I fight him, you know, that's what I have to do. You know, just look for his mistakes and make him pay.
Because you could see right there that every once in a while his feet get a little too parallel, and there's a lot of surface to hit.
Best offensive output of the night in this 5th round from Antonio Margarito. Antonio Margarito, simply stated, one of the most exciting offensive-minded fighters in the world. He has put it all on the line tonight against Sebastian Lujan. A much-anticipated showdown with Kermit Cintron. It is scheduled, but he has to get by Ring Magazine's #10 ranked welterweight Lujan here tonight in Atlantic City. Joe Tessitore, Teddy Atlas ringside, now joined by Kermit Cintron. So interesting to get your observations as you sit here knowing that a big payday is on the line here with a guy like Margarito. Do you watch almost with, so to say, a betting interest? Almost rooting for Margarito?
Oh, of course. You know, he's the man right now. In my opinion, he's the man. And, you know, I can't wait till I fight him. It's going to be a great fight.
We're all looking forward to that. A lot of buzz in the industry and boxing about that fight. Should be fireworks.
And look for Cintron to try to zero in on a punch, and that's the punch. The uppercut that has been and can be very effective against Lujan, who leans in like that.
Opportunity came up 2 times early on here in the 6th round. Both times Margarito threw it.
And there's the uppercut again and again at the right time. When Lujan leans forward from the waist and loses eye contact with the taller man. Margarito experienced enough to know when to chuck that punch. And that time finding a left hook as Lujan pulls back.
Good body shot from Antonio Margarito. Now trying to target that right hand upstairs.
Well, that's the smart experience of Margarito right there, going to the body, as you just said. And again, Joe, because Lujan doing a pretty good job, even though it's a little raw, he's moving his head pretty darn good. And the body is still right there. And Margarito's smart enough to find that body and slow down the head movement of Lujan. You can't find the head? Go downstairs. Slow it down.
Teddy Atlas's scorecard for the WBO welterweight title, 49-46. So glad you can be with us on Friday Night Fights, this main event special from Boardwalk Hall in Atlantic City. There's a right hand up top from Antonio Margarito.
Hey, Kermit, that's why you want to keep your hands up when you're moving your head. You know, a moment ago you just saw why it's so important to have good habits, good fundamentals. Lujan moving his head well, but one of the punches got in, and it got in clean because, yeah, his head was moving, but his hands were down.
Exactly, that's correct.
Kermit Cintron, the welterweight contender, with us ringside, giving us his thoughts on Antonio Margarito. A much anticipated showdown with Cintron and Margarito scheduled for April. Good action here to close out this 6th round. Another strong round for Tony.
Friday Night Fights on ESPN2, your boxing authority.
Live action, round number 7. Antonio Margarito has started to take control in the middle rounds here. Scheduled for 12 with the WBO title on the line. In that 6th round, Teddy, look at these gaudy numbers. He threw 144 total punches.
But when you evaluate the body of work of Margarito as one of the better fighters in his division, and you see that he's got 4 losses, you got to remember 3 of his 4 losses were between the age of 15 to 18 years of age.
Yeah, he started his career 9-3, but of course he was thrown in the mix down in Tijuana at age 15. That's how you learn the game the tough way. Most recently, he has been on a nonstop tear. Of course, back on September 11, 2004, he had a technical decision loss to Daniel Santos. He was ahead on one of the scorecards, but 2 of the scorecards went against him because of yet another clash of heads. It's happened 2 times now against Daniel Santos, unable to continue, so it went to the scorecards. So 3 losses early on and then a technical decision, Daniel Santos.
And you know what? I'm surprised that there hasn't been a clash of heads of any significance so far in this fight, because both guys are in there with their heads. Especially Lujan, who fights coming forward with that dome all the time. And as you said, Margarito cut over the right eye in his last fight 5 months ago. Margarito, besides the things that he's shown you, that he can be tall, he can fight in the trenches with you too, his switch on you. We have Kermit Cintron with us here. Kermit, anything in your mind, in your camp, to deal with when Margarito does switch to that southpaw stance?
It's no difference. I mean, fighting a southpaw and a right-hand fighter. When he switches, you just got to come right with, a straight right hand. You'll catch him.
Good left hand from Margarito. He keeps coming forward with punches and bunches, digging now to the body. Kermit, thank you so much for joining us. It was so interesting to hear your observations, and we look forward to seeing you in April against either Antonio Margarito or possibly Sebastian Lujan.
Thank you.
Kermit Cintron.
And again, Margarito giving the landscape that Lujan would want. He's not using his height all the time. But even when he's inside close, he's getting the job done better than Lujan.
Scheduled for 5 more rounds, Margarito and Lujan. Night Fights main event special from Boardwalk Hall in Atlantic City. Antonio Margarito and Sebastian Lujan. Margarito, you see in the white trunks. You see his punches through 7 rounds, 744 thrown. Now, in the last 3 rounds, Teddy, this guy has been on absolute fire. Margarito has thrown 403 punches in the last 3 rounds alone.
Big step up in class for Lujan. One thing, he came here, he came to fight as we thought he would. He's traveled well, but having difficulty with the class difference.
Let's bring in the welterweight world champion, Zab Judah. Zab, earlier in this fight, you were pointing out some flaws of Antonio Margarito. What has he done to impress you now and correct things?
I think that Margarito's doing a great job now of backing him up. He's using his jab a little bit more now, but he's still standing a little bit too high for me, I mean, he should be staying kind of low and throwing more uppercuts. But I think that Lujan has never been to this height before, and he's breaking down as the fight gets longer. I think Lujan's going to break down more and more and more.
Zab, what would you make of a Cintron Margarito fight?
It's funny because I don't really know much about Cintron, and I'm watching Margarito here today. I mean, from what I heard, they're both 2 slow fighters, but they both 2 hard-hitting fighters. It depends on which 2 fighters show up that day. But
Zab, it's Teddy here. You just talked about Lujan, the possibility of him breaking down. He's traveling all the first time in the U.S., stepping way up in class. What better way to help him start going downhill than to go to the body? You in the corner, Margarito, would you say, hey, start banging him in the body, give him a reason to start falling apart?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if I was a Margarito in the corner, I would tell Margarito, go to the body more, go to the body with the uppercuts and the hooks and flat around. Break him down now. Okay. I mean, he's getting ready to go soon.
Yeah, if a guy's starting to slip downhill, you like to give him a little push, right, Zeb?
Oh, yeah, a nice shove.
I think
Exactly.
Corey Spinks knows all about that, Zab.
That's
A
right.
shove is better than a push.
That's right.
Zab Judah, the world champion, with us tonight. Great job with Brian Kenny.
You know, we're talking about the difference in class. Margarito has already beaten a level of fighter that Lujan hasn't until tonight faced. This is the first time of him drinking from that water.
He's starting to show up now as we get into the later stages of this scheduled 12-rounder. Margarito now in control. Ninth round scheduled for 12 between Antonio Margarito and Sebastian Lujan. You know, Lujan's only a 3-year pro, Teddy. He didn't have the most extensive amateur career, but he's been very active as a pro. 7 fights last year. This is obviously a huge step up compared to what he's been fighting in Argentina.
Turned pro when he was 21, 25 now. And as we said earlier, going from the wading pool into the ocean, he's swallowing quite a bit of water.
Saw the punch stats moments ago from round number 8. Margarito's been just tearing it up through 116 in the 5th, 144, 143, and then in that 8th round, 127 punches thrown.
Now, Cameron's going to get a chance to look at this once I mention it, but the doctors are going to have to look at it. I see blood coming out of the left ear.
Teddy, it showed up at the
Lujan.
end of the 8th round.
And you would want the corner to be aware of that, number one. But most important, you want the doctor, obviously, to get a peek at that.
That's not a good sign. Of course, damage to the inner ear could greatly
Right
affect
there,
the fighter.
you see
it there.
Truck doing a tremendous job getting the camera right on that.
You know, Jesse James Leha was in studio with Brian Kenny a few weeks back, and of course, he suffered an injury similar to that against Kostya Tszyu.
And right now, this fight, we just talked about this with Zab Judah, the world champion that's in our studio. I think this fight is being extended because of 2 reasons. One, Lujan doing a good job of moving his head. Not doing a good job on offense, but doing a good job of moving his head, even in a crude way, getting away from a lot of those punches. But Margarito not switching to the body enough. If he'd switch to the body more, he might be able to do what Zab talked about and give that shove downhill to Lujan. And more importantly, if he would go to the body like he's doing now, Margarito wouldn't miss as much. Those punches he's thrown when he's thrown 6, 7 punches and 4 missing, they wouldn't miss. The body is not moving. It's right there. They would land and they would have an effect.
Just put one right to the middle of the chest there, then back up top. Right hand digs a left hand to the body. That's what you're looking for, Teddy.
There's only 3 punches you need, really, with Lujan. One is the jab when you want to control distance on the outside and set everything up with the shorter man. The other is the uppercut and the body shot. Those are the punches I would be concentrating on if I was in the corner right now of Margarito. The uppercut because, as we've said, Lujan leans forward. The body because the head is moving. The body is a target.
3 rounds to go for Lujan against Margarito. Teddy just sitting ringside, observing the left ear of Sebastian Lujan. This has to be of great concern.
Yeah, there's bleeding there, and there's cauliflower, like the old timers would say. That is a picture. Now, viewers, I don't know if they want to go eat vegetables now. They want to see that, but that is what you hear the term cauliflower ear. And that's from having fluid that's absorbed from punches and impact to that ear. Fluid starts to accumulate, and the ear becomes disformed. And what you have to do after the fight is you got to get a needle, a doctor, to drain that fluid out, because once it hardens, it becomes permanent. And the old-time fighters that fought a lot, they had that permanent look of a cauliflower ear because they didn't get it drained quite often. And also what it tells you is that Lujan gets hit with right hands because it's on the left side of his head.
Yeah, and look at the amount of punches that have been raining down on him. Punches through 9 rounds. Margarito has gone over the 1,000 mark. 334 out of 1,017. In fact, in the last 3 rounds, he's outlanded the Argentine fighter 144-47.
See, in the old days when a fighter would go out of town, there was no tape to see a guy, and he'd go out of town, he'd fight the guy on the blind, and he'd see him at the weigh-in for the first time. He would size him up what punches would work immediately by looking at his face. If he had a flat nose, he knew he could hit him with jabs. If he had a cauliflower ear, he knew he could hit him with hooks.
And right now, Antonio Margarito can hit him with just about anything. Drives a right hand downward and then a left to the body.
Now's where the uppercut can be very effective, as you can see.
Good left hand. Short left on the inside.
Well, now Margarito's starting to go to that body. And so a lot of those punches that were missing because of the head movement before, they're not missing. Because he's finding the body, and he's starting to paralyze Lujan and affect Lujan a little more and more and more. Again, the uppercut can be a big punch right now for Margarito, because Lujan, as the fight goes on, and as those body punches take effect, look, he's leaning forward more and more.
It's amazing when Antonio Margarito just goes to work. He really never stops. We've seen now 6 straight rounds of this pace, just non-stop work from Margarito.
Well, that left hook to the body has really paid dividends for Margarito, because it's really affecting Lujan. It's slowing him down. He's showing a lot of heart. But right now, I'd like to see some heart and compassion be shown by the corner of Lujan and the referee. And as I say it, the referee, a former fighter, Dave Fields, does what I was expecting and hoping he would do. Steps in there, and the corner does what we were hoping they would do. They stop the fight.
You know what, Teddy? That's the right call. Let me tell you something. That blood, look at that left ear on Sebastian Lujan. The blood was getting to the point of just spray painting ringside. And in actuality, that ear is starting to come off the side of his head. He has a torn ear. It's hanging off his head.
Yes, he does. My God.
This shit is hanging down, man.
Thank goodness they stopped this fight. His ear is starting to come off his head.
It may be a little late, but thank God they stopped it. The referee stepped in there and stopped it, and then brought the corner up once he did that. Because of the swelling and the irritation of the ear and the bloated condition of it from the fluid that was in there, it was obviously more susceptible to what you just see there, being broken open.
Now, I think that only happened about 20 seconds before the stoppage. Obviously, Antonio Margarito, just an offensive machine, and he was targeting right hand after right hand. But thank goodness Dave Field, the referee, got a grasp of the situation and stopped this fight before some permanent damage was done to that left ear of Sebastian Lujan. That is a gruesome, gruesome scene.
He's going to obviously get to the hospital after this and have that sutured or stitched by the doctor.
Antonio Margarito, workmanlike as always. The good news for Margarito and for the potential fight with Kermit Citron is he came out without a cut and apparently without any form of injury, and did exactly what he was expected to do. Teddy, let's take a look at the action in the last round and the pounding that Lujan was taking.
Well, there you see Margarito. We talked about it earlier, switching to southpaw. He's comfortable doing that, and he was very comfortable. And right there, not everybody might want to see that. It's pretty graphic, but you can see the ear actually flopping. And if you have children right now, you might not want them to be watching this.
Sebastian Lujan, what guts to continue onward in that 10th round with his ear coming off the side of his head.
That's a pretty graphic shot right there. That might be some people
seen anything like that
you could understand would not enjoy watching that.
Let's send it to the ring to Michael Buffer.
Ladies and gentlemen, referee David Fields steps in and calls a halt to this bout. The official time, 2 minutes, 57 seconds of round number 10. The winner by TKO and still WBO welterweight champion of the world, Antonio Margarito.
And in that last round, Margarito, we talked about the offensive explosion. He outlanded Lujan 65-7 in the last round. That term crowd pleaser is one of those boxing tags that at times gets tossed around freely, but in this case, it's well earned. Antonio Margarito gets the win.